want to quickly say welcome to Ride the Omnibus and Ghouls Magazine. I'm Ariel Baska, joined by
Rabia Sitabi,
the newest contributor to Ghouls Magazine, and my co-host at Ride the Omnibus. And we are so pleased to welcome Rob Jabbaz, the director of The Sadness, a film we both simply adored.
Oh, that's
yes.
great. Are we recording right now? Is this
Yes.
happening right
We are
Yes.
recording.
now? Okay. Well, thanks a lot. That's real nice. I like that warmth right off the bat like that. To be honest, like I was a little nervous coming in because your podcast is the intersection between pop culture and social justice. And I thought that you guys might ambush me or something and like apologize for my film or something. But
No. We would not do that.
No, I'm going to give you a little spoiler, Rob. We're both fans of extreme horror and extreme cinema.
Well, I'm going to give you a little spoiler. I've actually listened to a few of your podcasts, so I know a little bit about both of you. I know about the video store in Amsterdam and the girl who let you rent Freddy movies and whatnot, and
Yeah.
cousins letting you watch Hellraiser and all that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And I know that Ariel, you just did directed a horror film. Am I wrong?
You are not wrong, sir. That is
All right.
That is correct.
Okay, so I know that you guys are both, you're cool. Sure, right.
We're cool cats.
We try. So I wanted to dive into this film because it is one of the first films I've seen in a very long time that not only made my heart sing with the beautiful bloody gore of it, but it also had so many interesting edges to it in terms of the political commentary, the satire, and we both were watching it together and just proclaiming with joy how much we enjoyed it.
Absolutely.
And I wanted to know, in terms of, your decision to make a film about a virus in the middle of, COVID-19 and all of that, the Alvin virus.
Yeah.
How did that take shape for you? I mean, what really led to the decision to structure what feels like a zombie movie around COVID-19?
Okay, I'll tell you that. That's really easy, actually. Basically, I was trying to write a script for. I was technically working as like a staff writer for this guy who's kind of like a independently wealthy, entertainment. He has an entertainment company, but he also has like a crypto. His own. He had a run doing his own cryptocurrency, and he was doing some stuff with like cam girls and stuff. Like he's just an entrepreneur, a very tech related, but this guy loves movies, and through the just through fate, I just happened to like end up at a lunch with him, and then he told me he wanted to do a movie, and we talked for like 2 hours just about like all this stuff, like the nostalgia stuff, talking about how much we liked Predator, but we didn't like Predator 2, and how much this and just all that nerd stuff, like sort of regressing back into infancy, talking about like why you like movies when you're like 8 or whatever, and we got along. He's a little older than I am, but then he's trying to write this movie. And I spent like 8 months trying to write this movie. The plot is completely different than The Sadness. But then after, what happened is COVID-19 kind of came around, and the next thing you know, this guy's just like, okay, we need to do a movie right now. I don't care what it is. We just need to do something right now because the iron is hot. Hollywood's closed. We need to do something, and it should be about a virus. Everyone's thinking about a virus, and I'm thinking, well, do people really want to hear about a virus? Like, I mean, that's all they hear, and it's like, no, man, look at the metrics. Like Contagion is going through the roof on Netflix. Outbreak is going through the roof. Like people say they don't want to hear about it, but it's all they want to hear about. We got to do a virus movie. So I said, okay. So then I started thinking about like, how we're going to come at it and stuff, because he wanted initially. He's not a creative type. He's just sort of a business guy, and he thinks he makes decisions kind of with his gut, So anyways, what the guy does is he says, do a zombie movie, and I think I don't want to do that. If I'm going to do this, I need to take it to the next level. So I started thinking about like, what can we do to kind of meet the criteria like human on human violence and sort of the contagion aspect of a zombie movie. And then I started thinking about two things. I started thinking about the comic book Crossed, which I'm sure you guys are familiar with because I saw you did the Eisner Awards stuff, so you guys read comics. And also, I'm not sure, I bet you that you both have read this, The Screwfly Solution by Raccoon Sheldon. Yes, no?
I have not read that, no.
I've heard of it. I've not read it.
Yeah, Raccoon Sheldon is the pen name of, I want to say, Alice Sheldon, who wrote under the name of James Tiptree Jr. But
yes, okay.
Yeah,
I haven't read it, but I know of it.
So her real name is Alice Sheldon, but Raccoon is such a cooler name. But anyways, she wrote this little story about like, basically it's like, I don't want to get too into the Screwfly Solution because I could talk about it for like the half an hour that we have. But anyways, it's just about like this sort of like virus or whatever that flips a switch in the male brain that makes their sexual drive turn into a violent drive. So instead of wanting to have like, to have sex with a woman, you just want to murder her, right? But it's the sexual arousal that brings on the homicidal urges, right? So I was like, man, that's really cool. Like that's a really cool idea because in fact, I mean, depending on what your philosophy is or what your understanding of psychology is, I think a pretty decent case could be made for violence and aggression and male sex drive being kind of like closely connected, And I was like, man, that makes just way too much sense. It's almost scary. So like kind of having this virus kind of, a lot of critics or whatever, just like journalists and stuff have been saying like, it's a virus that releases your id, like from my film. And then kind of just like the over the top goriness and sort of the cruelty of it all is sort of comes from, I guess, the influence of Crossed. But the thing about Crossed is that it's, I felt like we didn't really get to know the Crossed individually, like the infected people very well. Like I wish they talked more and I wish they expressed themselves more. So I wanted to like focus on just one guy, which is obviously the guy, who I'm talking about in my film, the businessman on the train, who was kind of our main villain throughout the whole thing. And I wanted to just kind of focus on that. And then I started thinking, oh man, like maybe we can do something where it's like, he's like a, malcontent, doesn't really fit in, never been married, kind of like his boss at work is like, 20 years younger than him. And like, he just sucks at talking with people. And then this virus kind of is what empowers him. And it's through this violent, like just crazy haze of violence that he finds himself. And like, that's cool. That's dark. So it just all came together like a big vomiting of just this idea. And it was another thing too, is like, the challenge is kind of like I'm doing this film not in my native language, and so I thought
going to be my next question.
Don't worry, I'll handle this. Don't worry. The thing is like I just thought, okay, I'll keep the dialogue, I'll keep the story kind of down, and I'll keep just like I'll keep just enough story so that what needs to happen next, but I don't want the story tripping up the film. Like I don't want it to kind of like you know how it is. It's like when there's a really good horror action and you just want more good stuff. You just want it to be good and cool, and then all of a sudden it's like it stops, and then there's like the father is talking to the daughter, and he's like I always knew that you could be something special, like and it's just like, what the hell's going on? Like let's get back to the alligators, like what was that movie, the one,
Crawl.
Right.
Crawl.
Yeah.
Come on,
underneath the house.
We're here for the alligators, we're here for the alligators. But I guess you need to have that though. You need to have like a human thing, or at least that's the way that the people who approve the script maybe think. It's like you need to have that, or else the people aren't going to like it. So anyways, like I just tried to kind of do what I felt was like hedging my own bets, being able to kind of do something that's not too heavy on story or dialogue. And then just kind of focusing on like the spectacle and the set pieces, and that's it.
Well, it's a high energy packed ride. And like you mentioned, there are some characters that we're following around, like the girl, like the businessman, like the boyfriend. but it keeps the energy levels high throughout, which is very interesting. For a horror movie that has this much violence in it, you sometimes have dips, like with the crazies, and even in Cross there are, like, after a few issues, like some dip moments, but you just keep going. It's just
Yeah.
a full-on ride all the way through the end. And my question specifically regarding Cross is, um you cited it as a inspiration for this, one way or another. You go far with the violence, but what made you stop at certain points and not go as far?
I'll tell you why exactly. I'm very sensitive to that kind of stuff. Like
Okay.
I mean, I don't mean I'm sensitive as in like, I'm sensitive. I'm just saying that, I'm just saying that like it all comes down to this. When you do stuff, when you go over the line, what happens is it doesn't hurt the audience, it hurts the film, because the audience will just turn, you have to have a little more, you have to understand, like, an audience isn't gonna like recoil in terror and go home crying if you cross the line. They're just gonna be like, fuck this. They're just gonna say, fuck this film. You know, like, this isn't art. This is just bullshit. This, oh, what an, ooh, wow, what an edgelord. You know, they're gonna do like that. So what you have to do is you have to make sure that you really identify the line and get as close as possible, but not cross over it. So like, you'll see in some places it's like, you know, like I will focus on a reaction of someone observing something ghastly instead of showing the ghastly thing.
Yeah.
But then sometimes I will show the ghastly thing. And really, you know, I mean, just to address the elephant in the room, like, this all really revolves around sexual violence, and like, because it's kind of like, it's a touchy, I mean, you know, obviously it's a very touchy subject, but at the same time, it's like, I want it to be scary in this way. Like, I need it in order for this thing to really, let me put it this way. We didn't have a big budget. We didn't have like we couldn't have like the big hordes of crazy people. Like, we couldn't have like these big giant things. So vulgarity and cruelty are free. So we use those to stand out, because what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to create a film that like will make people perk up and kind of be like, who made that? Like, what? Because it's my first film, so I just have to shout loud and make everyone hear my loud voice, you know. So cruelty is free, and vulgarity is free, and that's basically what I started with. But then I'm not an idiot, so I know I have to kind of not make sure the audience doesn't turn on me. So I've watched enough movies to know what makes me turn on a film. So that's my answer to your question.
Thank you.
No, and that's a wonderful answer from the filmmaking perspective, for sure. And I really respect that. I find that the whole film, you know, has this deep-seated sexual violence that really does interlace everything with this with certain notes that you rarely see in horror films, because people rarely are able to push that boundary that far. Right. But at the same time, I appreciated that you did not go graphic with it. And I think for a lot of women viewers, especially, that makes it a lot easier to take, at least in my case. But but I do know that, you know, the gory, grimy fun of it is still certainly there. And I wondered, though, like, how hard it was to cast people who were willing to do these kinds of things and say that kind of dialogue. As a filmmaker, I just have to wonder, like, what were those audition processes like? Like, did you get a lot of pushback from actors?
No, but I mean, yeah, I did. But actually, you know what? To be honest, like, I got a lot of pushback during the production, but like not so much from the actors. The actors were all totally, you know, like, when you like, you got to kind of understand like what the climate of Taiwanese cinema is like. It's very like, it's, I don't really want to get into this too much, but I guess just to make a long story short, it's pretty safe and pretty conservative, and also pretty like, even the style of acting, I would say, is kind of like leaning towards like theater acting. Like, it's not realism. It's not like Safdie Brothers. It's like, you know what I'm saying? It's more like, like My Fair Lady or something. I tried to watch
Douglas Sirk and those kinds of things. And,
yeah. I tried to watch My Fair Lady last night. I couldn't do it. I was just like, wow, this like it's just too like old. I don't understand it. I can't understand this kind of language, you know, with Audrey Hepburn as a flower girl. Anyways, and it's a music. Then it turns into a musical. Sorry, let me continue about the actors thing. So I think that a lot of times because of this climate, you get some actors who are just like, for them it's like finally, you know, like finally I get to do something just out of control like this, you know, like for example, the businessman actor Johnny Wong, like he got it immediately. He got it right away. He auditioned to be the president when he came in, and then when I saw him, when I saw him, and I was just like, you want to give, like, I know you prepared these lines for the president, but do you want to just take this and give this a read? And he did it, and I was just like, I don't even think I need to see anybody else. I think this is the guy. We initially wanted to go younger with the businessman, but like I was just like, no, this is our guy. We need our like veteran like actor, like our Tommy Lee Jones kind of actor to handle this role, you know. And then Ingru, the character Molly, if you recall. Yeah, so she also was just so selfless, absolutely enthusiastic to do all this stuff. That's probably who you're talking about. Like that's the one who you're probably like, how'd you get her to do that? She was down. She was super down just to do this.
How do you pretend that, you know, there's literally something happening in your eye socket? And
you know, this is where you just get, I mean, you get people who are committed to being actors, and you just give them the right motivation, and then it just kind of it just comes together by itself, you know. Like I mean, I didn't have any trouble with actors. I had problems though with casting people, with like casting director type people. Like
yeah,
I would imagine, yes.
I had problems with agents. I had problems with assistant directors. I had with like my team, like we're not doing this, or they're passive aggressive, and they're telling me that we don't have, like I need this now, and they're like, we don't have that, and I'm like yeah, we have it. I saw it. It's right here. What are you doing? Like, why are you trying to stop my movie? You know, my name goes on this fucking thing. You know, like why are you trying to trip up my movie? You know, so that happened, but I don't want to dwell on that too much, because to be perfectly honest, I'm like 90% happy with how the movie came out. So there's not even any reason for me to be a scumbag and turn around and like blame the crew for anything, because I'm actually very happy with the film. Although I should say that it definitely was a learning experience, and like I guess I kind of learned a lot in terms of being a director, which is kind of like being a manager, or like my PR skills needed to be kind of worked on a little bit, you know. A lot of times I mean, you see how I am. I'm a pretty amped up, you know, how do you say that, hyperactive kind of guy, and a lot of times that is what was able to push a lot of this stuff through, like just kind of clobbering down somebody who's being difficult, you know. But let me reiterate the fact that the actors were all totally on my side, and I'm still in contact with every single one of them, and they're all very happy with the film. So that's it.
Nice. And was there any specific? Oh, sorry, I have some background noise here. Sorry. Let me just. Was there any intention in the script to outline some of the sexual violence because normally what you get if someone who is presenting as male, who identifies as male, makes a movie about sexual violence involving women, that it's very male gazy. And with male gaze, we mean that it's all done, you know, actually to, you know,
fallaciousness.
Fallaciousness, indeed. Whereas in what I liked about The Businessman, without spoiling too much, is that the way that scene in the metro car is set up, it acknowledges the stuff that women go through, the uncomfortable kindness that we have to show, and the 5 or 6 or 7 no's, while we're getting that internal monologue of that male entitlement, basically, eventually, like of that businessman.
Yeah.
And that's normally not something in a movie like this, especially with so much violence and with sexual violence, where that something like that gets tipped off and gets a spotlight in a way that actually respects or acknowledges the way that women feel in a situation like that.
Yeah.
How did you come up with that?
I mean, I guess I just kind of like thought to myself, I want to make an uncomfortable scene, and I want all the ladies in the audience to feel uncomfortable. So I just started kind of really thinking about how I'd go about doing that, and I mean, pretty much exactly what you said, like kind of like the feigning of kindness and whatnot, and then also like, let me tell you this, when we were doing what do you call that, like, you know, reads, like auditioning for the part,
Yeah.
almost every single girl, because they'd improvise, right? They'd be like, no, I have a boyfriend. They'd say, I have a boyfriend, right? And I was just like,
Yeah.
you don't have to say that. You shouldn't have to say that. That's like that, you know, whether or not you have a boyfriend doesn't matter. Like, there's not going to stop. It shouldn't matter this guy if he's going to be like, you know, kind of doing this to you, you know, like you said no, so he should stop. And like, I was just really in this headspace, you know, of like standard. This is also, you know, like people are always like, you know, why doesn't she just get up and walk away, right? And I was like, no, she's sitting there. She's gonna stand her fucking ground. Like I was just trying to really think about, like, I mean, I have 2 sisters who are younger than me, and like I just always, whenever I have trouble kind of thinking about like, you know, like how to approach like, how do I say it? Like, I guess not violence towards women, but like disrespect towards women, or like that kind of, I just think about them, because I know them pretty well. So I just kind of think about like how they would feel, and maybe what they would say, you know, and that kind of stuff, or maybe what I would want them to say as like a big brother kind of thing. So I guess that's really just where it's coming from. I just try to be as like empathetic as possible, like understand kind of where you're coming from, and then I mean, the most important thing about that whole part of the film is to create sort of this motivation for the businessman, like to kind of create this sort of thing where it's like, you know, inside this man's brain is just this like roiling cauldron of sexual inadequacy and just desire, and like just and it's just like I don't know, whatever the metaphor is appropriate for this thing, like a dam. Bless you. So
Thank
so just
you. My allergies.
it's
I'm sorry.
Understandable. But anywho, like yeah, I mean, you know what I'm trying to say. Like
No, but the reason that I mentioned it and asked a question about it specifically is because I noticed throughout the film, even towards the end, that despite all the violence and everything that is happening, that there's still like some consideration of the female experience in all of this craziness, and that is something that I found refreshing for something, especially for a genre like this, where Ariel and I watch a lot of these types of movies that go beyond that line even, and go all types of different directions, but especially when they're made by men, we don't see the female experiences highlighted like this or acknowledged like this. So that's something that really made me like the movie even more.
Well, that's real nice. You know, I should also say too that I've been living in Taiwan for quite a long time, and I think that being kind of out of the conversation for such a long time, because I don't pay attention to anything. Like I just hang out with my cats, and I try to like, I'm an animator most of the time, so like I work on pretty stuff that's a little more like science fiction. If you look at my Instagram, you'll see like kind of my animation stuff, but it's all pretty wild and not quite as reality core as the sadness. But I tend to just sort of stay out of the big big debate, the big left-right debate, and sort of where, you know, where you're supposed, like, if, you know, if you're like a guy who's you know, who's like a you know, kind of a masculine kind of dude, you generally you'll fall into like into one camp or whatever. But I don't know, for me, like, I don't know, I think that stuff's just really just takes up so much time and so much effort of your thinking that I just kind of stay out of it. So I just try to think really like what's the word? I just try like, I mean, like I said before, I just try to really kind of be empathetic to people and kind of really try to understand my characters and try to make something that I feel is like fair, like to everybody who's watching. I'm always thinking about the audience, right? Because I'm terrified that they're going to turn on the film. Again, that's my whole thing, is like, I want everyone to be on the side of the film, but at the same time, I want to give you guys the thrills and the chills and the explosions of blood and like the winces of pain and all that stuff, like that, all the fun stuff, you know, and also like try to present it a little more like earnestly than it is usually, like don't kind of present it like a joke, like present it like this is the scariest thing ever, you know, this is the most horrible thing you've ever seen, like take it very seriously, take all this violence very seriously. So
And I will also tell you that there were several other moments that were moments where we sort of turned to each other virtually and were like, is this really going there? One of them was also talking about the president. You know, you were talking about the fact that Johnny Wong came in to read for the president of China, and with the political context in Taiwan, I mean, I'm not saying we have to explain everything about the political context between China and Taiwan, but I think most of our listeners and viewers will understand that it's a very, you know, fraught relationship, and especially right now, given everything that's happening with Hong Kong, it's quite pointed, your satire in that moment, and it was so delicious to watch. But I wondered what enabled you to make that. Do you think your outsider status allowed you to be able to say things like that?
Sure, absolutely. I said this, I've said this before, but whatever, I'll say it again because we're here now. But I was just going to say that I'm like the position that I take in terms of you know, how much of a barrier breaker, or how much of like, you know, like how like I smashing down walls or whatever that, you know, kind of thing is. Like I'm not really that guy. I'm more just kind of the guy who kind of gets drunk at a party and then accidentally falls over and knocks over a fence or something, and everyone goes like, oh God, you know what I mean? Like I'm more just a clumsy idiot. That's kind of the way that it kind of rolled. Like that's kind of the way that it turned out to be. But regarding that particular sequence, I can only assume that you thought that it was like the president of China because it says Republic of China on the podium and in the background.
Oh no, I'm sorry. I did actually know it was not that. I mean, I know that Taiwan is called Republic of China,
okay,
and so forth. But
okay.
But it still felt like political commentary with sort of China as sort of the background within that. But
sure, absolutely. Well, real quick, I guess, like you know, I tried to, like, right now my perspective is a little different about sort of Taiwan and how it's handling the pandemic and everything else. Like I think that they're trying to hold on as you know, just by the skin of their teeth, like to their sovereignty, and they're trying to make sure that China doesn't use the pandemic as like another chip to, like, you know, oh, you know, you guys, we can give you all the vaccines you want as long as you just sign on the dotted line, you know. So and they're really trying to hang on to this, and they'll make it. It's just going to be kind of a slow and kind of uncomfortable ride back to normalcy, right? But the thing is at the time when I did the sadness, what really kind of made the whole story like click together was, hey, right now Taiwan is really dealing with the pandemic very, very well. They closed the borders. The re-election of Tsai Ing-wen happened, and all of like a lot of Chinese business pulled out of China, out of Taiwan, like because like fuck you, if you don't want to, if you're gonna elect that bitch again, then we're not gonna fucking invest in your country. Luckily, that's when the pandemic happened, and that means that there wasn't a lot of like back and forth between China and Taiwan, just completely by fate, right? So then because of SARS, also like they were able to kind of just like figure out how to maintain like low how do you say that, like low outbreaks and whatnot, and that's how we were able to make the movie. And then when Jeff, the main financier, said, hey, let's make a virus outbreak pandemic virus zombie movie in Taiwan, I was just like, how? Like what's the angle? Like Taiwan's like the only country that, like right now, Taiwan's the only country that dealt with this very well. So what's the angle? Like we're gonna say that, oh yeah, you know how Taiwan dealt with this very well? Well, fuck Taiwan anyways. Like that doesn't make any sense to me. So then I thought, okay, you know what I'll do is I'll go back in time to the previous presidency, right, which was Ma Ying-jeou, and that's when the people were, because he was like a KMT guy, and that's when people were like a lot more distrustful of the government, because there really was sort of like a light reunification trying to happen, and there were protests and everything else. And I thought to myself, what if we set it in a sort of an alternate Taiwan where like the KMT continued their rule of Taiwan, and the people were more cynical, and people were less trustful of the government, and the government was less responsible, and like had a different agenda. Like if I positioned the film that way, then all of a sudden everything else, all of the other emotion, like all of the emotional stuff, like, because really for me it's all about like these it's really just about like characters and really intense feelings and stuff, and kind of getting those across. Like, and once I have like this sort of new fictional Taiwan as my what do you call it, playing field, then all that other stuff just fits perfectly. So I had to kind of go back in time and kind of create like retcon Taiwan and make it kind of more like a KMT Taiwan. Although that's I didn't really intend for it to be much of like to be a real political movie. It was more just kind of like, I need to make things different. How can I kind of make things a little more chaotic in Taiwan? So I just did that. I'm not a political guy at all. Like I'm just kind of I'm just more interested in like the horror aspect of it. But I needed to do kind of, I just like the idea of having a president like die violently, like in front of everybody on TV, because it's like, and then the screen just go boo, like the what do you call that, the emergency hotline alert screen come on. Like I just thought that was a funny thing. So I thought, how do we get there? And I was like, okay, and then reverse engineer it back to KMT Taiwan, and that's it.
Wow.
Thanks.
It sounds also interesting. Like you mentioned, this came out, this idea sprung up because of someone saying like, we need to do a virus movie. But I'm wondering, do you have ideas for your next film? Because this is a big one to come in with as your first film. It's high energy, high pace, high violence, high everything. So do you already have plans or ideas for what your next project is going to be?
Yeah, absolutely. I have like 3 ideas, but there's one that I'm kind of working on right now that I feel like when I'm kind of, rolling around to all these festivals and people ask me that same question, I got this one kind of queued up. I won't tell you exactly what it's about, but I'll tell you kind of like in the same way that The Sadness is kind of about like lonely kind of malcontent people kind of like finding themselves in this violent like this violent craze. This one's kind of exploring kind of the ideas of like the fears of having children, and the fears of like and the fears of having children like in a foreign country, and the fears of having children in a foreign country with like someone from that foreign country, and how maybe like depending on the relationship, like how the 2 people in the relationship might use the child against each other, and also like how sometimes like a guy will like a guy who's dating a much younger, or who's in a relationship with a much younger woman will like gaslight her into thinking that she doesn't want to have children, and then just kind of like pile on that kind of stuff and eventually convince her that it's a good idea not to. But meanwhile, she's she may not actually be making her own decisions. She's just kind of getting circles run around her by a much more experienced kind of manipulative guy. And that guy might not even really be totally conscious of what he's doing. He's just kind of following like his own sort of lazy desire. Most of the time when people are shitty, they're mostly just being lazy, right? So very few people are actually trying to be shitty. They're just kind of lazy. But anyways, this whole thing is like it's about this kind of child thing, and kind of the idea of like also having a child, and the child being kind of like a vampire. That it's not about vampires, but it's like a vampire that kind of sucks your youth and your beauty and your ambition away, and like and leaves you as a husk, and kind of this very cynical, like non-child having perspective of like a child. And it's sort of got like a ton of from the sadness, you must know that I love set pieces. I love gore. I love physical effects. I love CG. I love everything. I love just like the spectacle of film, like modern filmmaking. So a lot of that, a lot of like body horror type stuff. It's more of like a body horror thing, and more of like a smaller cast, like a cast of maybe 6. So I want to take all of the big cast of The Sadness, bring that all in, but then keep the same amount of special effects and stuff. And make the location a little bit more manageable. Just try to kind of like take your budget and kind of instead of spreading it so thin, just kind of like figure out what the best stuff is and kind of just put all the money into that and do that sort of stuff, and maybe get more money so you can even go further.
Indeed.
Yeah. So yeah, it's about kids.
Kids, what's happened to kids today?
Mm-hmm.
But I want to thank you so very much for.
Are we done? Are you cutting this? Are you winding this down?
I mean, is there
unless you have
that
something
you would love to say? I was going to give you an opportunity to just, basically what I was going to say is this has been a wonderful interview, but I wanted to know, is there, one burning thing that you feel you need to tell people about this film, or your perspective as a filmmaker?
Maybe that not really. I think the film speaks for itself. I'm so happy that you guys liked it. Like I'm so happy that the hosts of a pop culture intersection with social justice podcast likes the film as much as you guys did. And I'm so happy that you guys caught all the stuff that I was like, you caught what I did to try to make sure that it was kind of on the okay side of being okay. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I'm super happy about that. I'm relieved about that.
you might be a little spoiled with us though. I mean,
I came on here ready to fight with you guys.
Oh wow.
Really?
Yeah.
No, I don't.
Okay, then you're definitely spoiled with us.
See, I would never invite anyone on this show that I was going to be confrontational with.
I'm
I think that's just bad journalism, but
No, I mean that could, that's bad journalism, but that's good radio.
It's good radio, but I'm not interested in good radio. I'm interested in good journalism. So
yeah.
Anyway. I understand. Yeah, okay, cool. All right, well, great. I really appreciate you guys giving me a ring-a-ding-ding, and I hope I see you guys maybe on the trail on my journeys over the next couple months.
I hope so.
If you can make it out to any of the fest.
Well,
I certainly plan to. So
yeah, well, if you're ever near either DC or Amsterdam, let us know.
Okay, cool.
Seriously,
yeah, I'll do that.
It would be wonderful. So You take care, and thank you again so much for just the gory brilliance of the sadness. So.
Indeed.
Thank you so much.